the stage. You see the virtual background. You hear our legendary music, and then there is me. Hi, everybody. Welcome and glad to have all you here. I want to get started real quick. I was on Make It Make Sense panel about Kiki Palmer, and I said what needed to be said. I certainly did. The chat was the chat. There was virtual tomatoes, and there were people saying I was being disrespectful, this, that, the third, all around the world. And ay. The first two ladies were saying disrespectful ish, and it boggles my mind how we want to have a forward thinking society, but yet we want to be comfortable with just anybody saying anything. And I wasn't raised that way, so I'm sorry if y'all weren't. But I said what needed to be said. And there were some people in Mim's comment section trying to come for me. There were a couple of people in the comments saying that, I understand Braylon's frustration. So to those idiots that your mama's launch pad was broken, your daddy's rocket was under a recall, and because you weren't a successful launch, you were born as a launch failure, and you weren't born as a star in heaven for anybody to care about because you were born as dust in hell. Leave the rest of us who care about things alone and go be miserable by your damn self. I said sorry to Mims. I am not sorry for what I said because it needed to be said, okay? Domestic violence is wrong on either side. But this is an 8-month-old child. And if you can't care about that, that means you don't care about your damn self because you were an 8-month-old child at one point in time too. And with that being said, welcome in, everybody. Glad to have all y'all here. I had to get that out. I was going to address it at the top of the show. But, y'all, we got a lot. I do mean we have a lot to talk about. So I have the 35 pages. It has a watermark on it, so I can't show you it. But I will be reading from it. But before we get started, I do want to say that this came out very heavy. This came out very, very, very heavy. And I said I was going to talk about the Trey Songz lawsuit because P. Diddy was in that lawsuit. I think the case got settled, but I'm going to bring up the lawsuit now just so I can give y'all some context here on this. Share. So it says here, this happened in Miami-Dade County on January 1st, 2018. Plaintiff Jerron Jeffries attended a New Year's Eve party at defendant Sean Combs' home on Star Island. Plaintiff arrived approximately at 1:45 a.m. and stayed from 1.5 to 2 hours. At approximately 4 a.m., plaintiff left defendant Combs' home and went to the driveway, called an Uber to take her and some of her friends at 1111 nightclub that's in Miami. Tremont Allison Newsom, a.k.a. Trey Songz, left Combs' home at the same time, overheard a conversation between plaintiff and her friends, invited the plaintiff and her friend to ride with him to 1111. Although the plaintiff observed that Songz was likely intoxicated, she accepted his offer of a ride because a member of defendant Song's security team was transporting them. When they arrived, the defendant, Ms. Jeffries, defendant Songz invited the plaintiff to join him at a private table where defendant provided food and bottle service. The plaintiff noticed that defendant Songz continued to drink, although he already appeared intoxicated. Plaintiff drank water only, while defendant plaintiff danced with friends. At one point got up on the couch to dance. Dancing on couches at 1111 and at Miami nightclubs is common. While plaintiff was dancing on the couch, she noticed defendant Songz standing on the floor next to her. Trigger warning, everybody. Then she felt her fingers being inserted in her launch pad. But you see the word. Turned around, saw defendant Songz pulled his hand away from her bottom. At the time, the plaintiff was wearing a dress with a high slit up the back. Plaintiff immediately got off the couch, sat down, and was in a state of shock. Another woman who was also in attendance went to the plaintiff and asked her what was wrong, and then told her that defendant Songz reached into her dress and inserted his fingers into her launch pad as well. Observing the women speaking, believing that the women were intoxicated, defendant Songz ordered the women to eat some chicken wings so they could sober up. Shortly after defendant songs or everyone to exit the VIP section at the nightclub and to exit the venue entirely. Following shot, plaintiff left defendant 1111 with defendant Song. Her friends got into Trey Song's security driven vehicle. Plaintiff got in the backseat of the vehicle along with defendant Songs and other female individuals. Was forced in the middle seat, making it impossible for plaintiff to move or freely exit the vehicle. So Trey Songz removed his shirt, and then fear more so plaintiff began recording songs for her own safety. Songs notes playing recorded him and attempted to forcibly remove the phone from plaintiff, but plaintiff for his efforts, plaintiff's refusal to turn over her phone to defendant Songs enraged Songs, who instructed the driver to stop the vehicle in order to forcibly remove the plaintiff out of the vehicle. Defendant Songs instructed the driver to one of defendant John Doe's to forcibly remove the plaintiff out from the vehicle. The driver, part of the security team, grabbed plaintiff and violently pulled her out the vehicle while defendant Song pushed on her, threw her into the street. While defendant John Doe's was pulling, plaintiff was being pushed by defendant Songs. Defendant Songs threatened and ridiculed the plaintiff and threw water in her face. Plaintiff suffered scrapes on her legs after hitting the ground, following being forcibly removed from the vehicle and thrown down to the ground. Now, you probably are wondering, why am I bringing up this lawsuit? Why am I bringing up this lawsuit? Because what I am going to read has similar vibes of this lawsuit. Okay, so I can't show y'all this, but I'm about to read it here. So it says here, in 2022, Mr. Combs received the Lifetime Achievement Award at the BET Awards. During his acceptance speech, Mr. Combs said, "I have to give a special shout of thank you, love to the people that were really there for me." He named a number of people before adding Cassie for holding me down in dark times, love. The truth is, however, Cassie, Miss Casey Ventura, was held down by Mr. Combs and endured for over a decade toward his violent behavior, disturbed demands from Miss Ventura. The dark times were those she's been trapped by Mr. Combs in a cycle of abuse, violence, and sex trafficking. Among the lawful acts, Miss Ventura, raped Miss Ventura or raped Miss Ventura in her own home after she tried to leave him, often punched, beat, kicked, and stomped on Miss Ventura, resulting in bruises, burst lips, black eyes, and bleeding. Now, you guys just heard about the Trey Songz thing and how that woman that was in Trey Songz' vehicle got scrapes on her legs and water thrown on her face. Blew up a man's car after he learned that he was romantically interested in Miss Ventura. That was Kid Cudi, and Kid Cudi's manager confirmed that. Like I said, everything on this channel is listed in my opinion for entertainment purposes only, but I'm reading from the 35-page document here. Forced Miss Ventura to engage in sex act with male workers while masturbating and filming the encounters. Ran out of his apartment with a firearm in pursuit of a rival industry exec whom he learned was nearby. That was Suge Knight. Demanded that Miss Ventura to carry his firearm in her purse just to make her uncomfortable and demonstrate how dangerous he is, and introduce Miss Ventura to a lifestyle of excessive alcohol and substance abuse and require her to procure illicit prescriptions to satisfy his own addictions. So let's just break down what we just heard, okay? And I'm leaving the Trey Songz up because it doesn't have a watermark on it. But let's just break down what you just heard about the P. Diddy sexual assault claims. Blew up a man's car, and then forcing Miss Ventura to be his toy and putting her in situations that she did not want to be in, while releasing himself to a 4D, experience happening in front of him and filming the encounters, and also punched, beat, kicked, and stomped on Miss Ventura, resulting in bruises, bursted lips, black eyes, and bleeding. Lord. So as we roll on here. So it says here, throughout their relationship, Mr. Combs was prone to uncontrollable rage and frequently beat Miss Ventura savagely. These beatings were witnessed by Mr. Combs' staff and employees of Bad Boy Entertainment and Mr. Combs' related businesses, but no one dared speaking up against their frightening and ferocious boss. Following these episodes of horrific abuse, Mr. Combs would immediately attempt to hide Miss Ventura and the evidence of his violent rage. He often showered her with gifts following incidents of physical violence, a typical pattern of several by serial abusers, or love bombing, as it is called. In addition to the physical assaults, Mr. Combs frequently reminded Miss Ventura of his ability to cause serious harm, whether it was requiring to carry his gun in her purse, or by blowing up the car of a musician that was romantically interested in Miss Ventura. Um, Lord help, Lord help. So as I keep reading here, I'm trying to read what y'all may not know about. Um, it says here, when she believed that she was finally separated from her longtime abuser, she joined Mr. Combs for dinner, after which he forced into her home and raped her, as he raped her while she was repeatedly said no, trying to push away. Miss Ventura has now fully escaped Mr. Combs, but the harm that the assaults and sexual abuse he has caused her for nearly a decade will forever haunt her. She has required intensive medical and psychological care to recover the trauma that she has lived through. And so, accordingly, Miss Ventura brings this action seeking injunctive, declaratory, and monetary relief against defendants in violation of sex trafficking laws. So, the New York Police Department has opened up an investigation against P. Diddy. Okay, here. So, this is 35 pages. I am going through. No. So this lawsuit here. No. That's a great question. So this lawsuit that I am bringing up right now, that's on your screen, is a separate lawsuit that is Trey Songz lawsuit. But the party happened at P. Diddy's house. It happened at P. Diddy's house. And if you read here, let me see here. If you read this here, I'll read it just to give you a little context here. Defendant Songz instructed his driver, one of the defendant John Doe's, to forcibly remove plaintiff from the vehicle. The driver, part of defendant Songz' security team, grabbed plaintiff, violently pushing her out the vehicle, while defendant Songz pushed her and threw her into the street. While defendant John Doe was pulling, plaintiff was being pushed by defendant Songz out of the vehicle. Defendant Songz threatened, ridiculed plaintiff, and threw water in her face. So I bring up that because those similar traits also were P. Diddy. And there's going to be a part of this lawsuit when I read it, I'm going to bring something up that Trey Songz did that relates to P. Diddy. Like I said, when I did my Kiki Palmer thing, I was very thorough. I'm the same way here. So here we go. Miss Ventura met Mr. Combs in late 2005 or early 2006 after Mr. Combs heard Miss Ventura's first single playing in a club and expressed interest in signing her to his label Bad Boy Records. At the time, Miss Ventura was 19 years old. Mr. Combs was 37 years old. I'm going to say that again. Miss Ventura was 19 years old. Mr. Combs was 37 years old. Within months, in February 2006, Miss Ventura signed a 10-album deal with Mr. Combs' record label. Miss Ventura's first album, Cassie, was released in August 2006, debuting number 4 on the U.S. Billboard Top 200. To promote the album, Miss Ventura made appearances on MTV Soul Request Live and 106 & Park on BET. Miss Ventura suffered from significant performance anxiety during these appearances. Press outlets were highly critical of Miss Ventura's performances on these shows. Mr. Combs, however, sought to rehabilitate his newly signed talent, telling MTV News, "You could hear the nervousness in her voice. And to be honest, I kind of smiled at it because it really made me appreciate what I love about her. She's just a regular person. It just made me appreciate that she got nervous. It was kind of cute to me, to be honest. You got to understand that success for her is coming out of nowhere. It's so huge. Everyone handles it differently." While clearly paternalistic in knowing how it was cute to him, how regular Miss Ventura appeared, Mr. Combs' comments rang true to some extent. Upon signing her Bad Boy Records, Miss Ventura was quickly thrust into the spotlight. Was unfamiliar how to navigate her new celebrity status. Combs' recognition and glorification of Miss Ventura naivete proved to set the groundwork for his manipulative and coercive romantic and sexual relationship with Miss Ventura, a woman 2 decades his junior. So, in November 2006, Mr. Combs invited Miss Ventura to perform his song Come to Me along with him at the MTV Europe Music Awards in Copenhagen, Denmark. After rehearsal for the performance, Mr. Combs walked around in a robe with a drink in his hand, flaunting his lavish party lifestyle to his label's newly signed artists. During hair and makeup leading to the performance, Miss Ventura's hairstylist and Mr. Combs' makeup artist told Miss Ventura that Mr. Combs was interested in Miss Ventura. Miss Ventura shrugged up the gossip and, in fact, expressed disgust given the large age gap between her and the president of her record label. Now, this is nothing new. As you guys may or may not know, Barry Gordy and Diana Ross were also in a relationship, boss artist. So this is nothing new. But I think that Diana Ross was a bit older, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me though. But I do know that that relationship happened. So with that being said, emphasizing the age and power dynamic early on in their working relationship, Mr. Combs positioned himself as a father figure and protector of Miss Ventura. By way of example, after returning to New York after a trip to Las Vegas, during which she endured a brief hospital stay, Miss Ventura, who by then was fully healthy, went out to a club with her friends. When Mr. Combs saw her out, he reprimanded her, telling her to go home and take care of herself. At the time, Miss Ventura thought that her record label was looking out for her well-being and that Mr. Combs had her best interest in mind. Mr. Combs also ensured that he was intertwined with Miss Ventura's personal and social life. For instance, by inviting himself to Miss Ventura's 21st birthday party in Vegas. He also brought along famous musicians and producers, thereby flaunting his celebrity status and influence in front of a young and impressionable Miss Ventura. Although Mr. Combs knew that Miss Ventura was in a relationship at the time, and even though he was publicly in a relationship with Kim Porter. Kim Porter is the young lady that passed away sadly to cancer. God rest her soul indeed. Mr. Combs nevertheless pursued Miss Ventura at an after party in a hotel suite following Miss Ventura's 21st birthday. Miss Combs, not Miss Combs, I'm sorry. Mr. Combs pulled Miss Ventura into a bathroom and forcibly kissed her. Like I said, 21 years old, so 1937, 38, 39. So that would make him 39, her 21. Let's keep going. Miss Ventura did not consent to this unwanted contact. She immediately ran out of the bathroom and the hotel suite and cried. She told her best friend at the time what happened, but was too scared to tell anyone else. At the Video Music Awards the following day, this is still, I think this is still in Europe, for the MTV Europe Music Awards. The following day, Miss Ventura's boyfriend at the time joined her and Mr. Combs at a table at the award ceremony. Mr. Combs became angry, telling Miss Ventura that the invitation to the award ceremony was only for her and not for her significant other. So this goes to show me that and this happened with P. Diddy and Darius. They are about control. Whether you're a man, whether you are a woman, or a baby, these men want your full undivided attention. By the way, welcome in. We are live on tour. We're talking about the Cassie P. Diddy lawsuit breakdown. This lawsuit that you're seeing on your screen is a separate lawsuit with Trey Songz and some of the things that Trey Songz did, because this lawsuit with Trey Songz happened at P. Diddy's house. So this lawsuit that you're seeing on your screen is a separate lawsuit from Cassie's lawsuit to P. Diddy. So just for contextual purposes, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Glad to have all of you here. Let's roll on as we are live on tour. Despite her clear rejection of Mr. Combs' advances, Mr. Combs continued to demand Ms. Ventura spend time with him, including a weekend at Mr. Combs' residence in Miami and 4 nights out of New York City. On one particular night around September 2007, Mr. Combs insisted on taking Ms. Ventura out. Ms. Ventura acquiesced, fearing that rejecting Mr. Combs' request would have repercussions for her album deal with Mr. Combs and his company Bad Boy Records. Mr. Combs picked up Ms. Ventura from her apartment in Manhattan in a blue luxury vehicle. Ms. Ventura was surprised when she got into the car, Mr. Combs was already inebriated. He handed her a pill and told her to take it. When Ms. Ventura asked what the pill was, Mr. Combs dismissed her and told her that she would like it. She later learned that the pill was ecstasy, something Ms. Ventura had never before tried and did not want to try. This was the first time Mr. Combs got Ms. Ventura high. Mr. Combs then proceeded to drive recklessly at very high speeds down the West Side Highway of Manhattan. Ms. Ventura was very scared but did not object to Mr. Combs, who appeared drunk, high, and agitated. Mr. Combs took Ms. Ventura to an upscale lounge in downtown Manhattan, where he proceeded to get into an altercation with the security staff, who would not permit Mr. Combs to enter, presumably because he was belligerent. And that is what security is supposed to do. Hey, PN2 Ross, welcome in. Glad to have you here. Whenever you go out to a club, whenever you go out to a club or a hotel, or if it's a public establishment, if you are bewildered, if you are belligerent, no pants, no shoes, no service, that's what they're supposed to do. But he thought because he had this power, because he was P mother effing damn Diddy, that he should be able to do what he wants to do. But that's not the case. They did exactly what they were supposed to do. So let me keep rolling on here. Miss Ventura decided to go home, but for the remainder of the night, Mr. Combs messaged Miss Ventura incessantly, complaining that he left him high and alone. No, she left your behind high and alone because of your behavior. Because absolutely, P&T Ross, much love to you. She left you high and alone because of your behavior, and you were driving down the West Side Highway of Manhattan at high speeds. She recognized her peace was better than her being in pieces, sir. Lord Jesus. In early fall 2007, Mr. Combs flexed his power and influence when he paid a promoter to create a fake flyer for a party by Miss Ventura. This fake posting allowed Miss Ventura to have an excuse to go to Miami and get her away from her boyfriend by using the guise of a legitimate event that she had to attend. Miss Ventura was stunned at how easily Mr. Combs were able to recruit others to lie for him. He probably had people easily to manipulate because he might have had things on them. And by the way, if you do try to do a fake event, you do realize that you can be charged for false advertisement, right? That's a crime. If she did commit to the event, that means P. Diddy would have been sued. Okay? Okay. So, Miss Ventura was uncomfortable with the fake flyer, but the request to go to Miami was made by the owner of her record label because she was scared to go against his wishes and face repercussion to her career. Miss Ventura agreed to join Mr. Combs in Florida. During this trip to Miami, Mr. Combs provided Miss Ventura with copious amounts of drugs. She became more intoxicated than she ever had before, and her intoxication lasted throughout the weekend trip. As she wanted Mr. Combs to continue to support her career, she felt she could not refuse Mr. Combs urging her to take more drugs. After providing her with drugs, Mr. Combs had sexual intercourse with Miss Ventura during this trip. For 2 years of meeting Mr. Combs, Miss Ventura found herself lured into the immediate circle of her boss, the owner of her record label, one of the most powerful men in the entertainment industry. From the very start of their relationship, Mr. Combs exerted his power and influence over Miss Ventura. The dynamic was fueled by their nearly 20-year age difference, as well as their relative positions in the entertainment industry. Mr. Combs was considered a music mogul, and Miss Ventura was at the very start of her career as an entertainer. Mr. Combs' aggressive and demanding approach to those he worked with made it impossible for anyone to challenge him. And Miss Ventura soon learned that Mr. Combs insisted on blind loyalty from everyone in his inner circle. Although Miss Ventura had saved us some earnings from her young modeling career, Mr. Combs' ostentatious display of wealth was imitating to her. Mr. Combs paid for things with wads of cash and repeatedly tell Miss Ventura, "Don't worry about money, I have money." Y'all tell me why I feel like PD was going to be like, "Don't worry about money, I am money." Because that's why I honestly felt that he was going to say, "Don't worry about money because I am money." I thought he was going to say that, but turns out it was, "I have money." Mr. Combs expensed lavish vacations for him, and Miss Ventura purchased a car for her, paid for her apartment, and provided her with extensive amounts of designer clothing. So basically, to me, what this was, let me give you the resources you don't have. And because I'm giving you these resources, I'm also going to put stipulations on you. And with those stipulations on you, now you're under my domain. You're under my control. You under my mind. And you have no mind. This is just my opinion. Everything's alleged and my opinion for entertainment purposes only. Let's keep rolling as we're live on tour. Like, comment, share, subscribe. We are live on tour talking about the Cassie lawsuit against P. Diddy. And by the way, I do have some news. And when I tell you this news, y'all going to be like, "What the actual hell?" But let's keep rolling though. Out of my orator skills comes greatness. Just give me time, y'all. Around 2008, 2009, Mr. Combs began renting an apartment in Manhattan for Miss Ventura. This apartment was within walking distance of Mr. Combs' New York residence. How convenient. He first showed Miss Ventura the apartment by bringing her there along with her parents. Miss Ventura's parents were very skeptical of the mogul's display of wealth, but was proud of their daughter's newfound success. Around 2010, Mr. Combs similarly paid for an apartment for Miss Ventura in Los Angeles, which was located about 5 minutes away from Mr. Combs' residence. So you bought a New York apartment that was close to your residence, and then in New York, and then in, I think it was, let me look at it again, I'm sorry. And then Los Angeles, you do a place 5 minutes away. The words of Cardi B, that's suspicious. That's weird. Let's keep rolling. Let's keep rolling. He paid for many of her apartments in California. Also purchased a Jaguar for her around 2013 or 2014. All aspects of Mr. Ventura's life was either controlled by Mr. Combs or his management companies. Every event Miss Ventura attended, from the travel to makeup and clothing, was paid directly by Mr. Combs and his affiliate companies. Compounding all of this encompassing intrusion into her life, Mr. Combs secured his control over the young and impressionable Miss Ventura by introducing her to a drug-fueled lifestyle that kept her complacent and compliant. Mr. Combs first introduced Miss Ventura to opioids around 2008. Will often have pills and other drugs out in the open like candy. Upon information and belief Mr. Combs had been addicted to prescription painkillers and took ecstasy frequently. At first, Miss Ventura was given the prescriptions that Mr. Combs received from a doctor in Miami, Florida. Probably a doctor that had a deal with P. Diddy of, "Hey, listen, I scratch your back, you'll scratch mine." That happens all the time. You even see it with BBL treatments and mommy makeovers. That, DC Youngfly's wife, who sadly passed away, was doing a mommy makeover. And so for some treatments, not all, but for some treatments, they will get a free treatment for the exchange of social capital on their social media accounts. Just giving y'all some behind the scenes stuff there. Eventually, when Mr. Combs exhausted his supply of pills, he demanded that Miss Ventura procures prescriptions from this Miami doctor in her own name. Mr. Combs also became deeply involved in Miss Ventura's personal life, with his personal staff attending to Miss Ventura's day to day travel. Other needs include medical care. Multiple occasions, Mr. Combs had Miss Ventura's personal medical records sent directly to his email address. Now, oh, thank you so much. Who said that? Much love to you, Queen, and glad to have you here. So, here's the thing. Now, I could be wrong. Unless you are married, you're not supposed to have that. I don't think you're supposed to have that because there's a thing called HIPAA. That is a law that prohibits the transferring of medical records or any medical information to anybody that does not have permission to have your medical records. Because as we know, Wendy Williams found out that Method Man's wife had cancer and now sent to the world. Okay. Okay. Whew. For instance, when Miss Ventura began experiencing memory loss due to potentially due to excessive drug use and or head injuries caused by Mr. Combs' beings as described below, her MRI results were provided directly to Mr. Combs, and Mr. Combs also repeatedly arranged for his staff to drive Miss Ventura to certain doctor's appointments. In this way, Mr. Combs exerted ownership over Miss Ventura as another example of the ways in which he manipulated Miss Ventura and ensured obedience. Early on in their relationship, he asked Miss Ventura what she called her grandfather. Let me read that one more time. Early on in their relationship, he asked Miss Ventura what he called her grandfather. When Miss Ventura said that she referred to her grandfather as Pop Pop, Mr. Combs perversely insisted that Miss Ventura referred to him with that nickname. Sorry, y'all. I don't know what happened. Give me one moment, y'all. Give me one moment. I hate road calls, y'all. I swear to God. Anyway, let's get back on this. This is just so in a moment of getting to know her, you use that to claim a title for yourself. Are you kidding me? Now, for those of you who do not know, for those of you who will see this, Pop Pop is a very old school term in the black community. Pop Pop, granddaddy, grandpa, that's an elder that gives domain and that soul and that foundation of how a family should run. That's a respectful position. So he asked her what she called her grandfather, which that's a very important name to her, and then you twisted it around like a spin cycle in a washing machine, and you hit permanent press on a dryer cycle or a dryer in a dry cycle, and you spin that around to work out for you. Okay, bro. Okay, let's keep rolling. We're live on tour, y'all. Whew, what started as a whirlwind of celebrity meetings and drug and alcohol fueled parties, however, quickly turned frightening and violent. Miss Ventura also was exposed to the intense violence that pervade Mr. Combs' rise to fame. For one example, on one occasion when Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura were using drugs together in his home, one of his security staff barged in and announced Suge Knight, a longtime rival of Mr. Combs, was spotted at Mel's Drive-In Diner in Los Angeles. Mel's Drive-In Diner is a very popular place, known for many, many things. Um, it is the most iconic diner and drive-in. So I'm going to show y'all um, what it looks like. It's been used in many, many things here. So I'm going to give y'all this here. Show y'all this. So this is Mel's drive-in here. So Very, very famous driving at Route 66. So just wanted to give y'all that context there. Okay, back to this. As we roll on here, Mr. Combs began to get dressed and retrieved multiple guns. Not a gun, multiple guns from a safe, and ran out of his home to where he believed Mr. Knight was dining. Now, to give y'all context, that diner has 75 people that can be in that diner. 75 people is not a lot of people, but it's more than enough people. Okay. Miss Ventura became terrified and began to cry. On at least two occasions, Mr. Combs demanded that Miss Ventura hold Mr. Combs' gun in her purse. Miss Ventura had no familiarity with guns and was petrified that the firearm would accidentally go off in her purse. There was no clear reason why Mr. Combs required her to hold his guns except to reinforce to his young girlfriend that he was violent, powerful, and dangerous. Most of the time, if you are a celebrity, and hello everybody, welcome in. We are live on tour. Like, comment, share, subscribe. I'm just in the middle of reading the 35-page lawsuit. I can't show you it because it has a watermark, but this lawsuit here, as you can see, what's highlighted is behavior that Trey Songz did, because Trey Songz was at P. Diddy's house. So this lawsuit that you're seeing on your screen is a separate lawsuit from Cassie's lawsuit with P. Diddy, but P. Diddy is in association with this lawsuit that's on your screen because he was one of the people charged in this lawsuit that's on your screen. Let's roll back on tour. Like, comment, share, subscribe. We are live on tour. Glad to have all of you here. Over the next decade, multiple times a year, Mr. Combs would violently beat Miss Ventura, leaving bruises on her body. After every instance in which he beat Miss Ventura, Mr. Combs used his money and power to orchestrate extensive efforts to hide the evidence of his abuse, including hiding Miss Ventura in hotels for days at a time to let her bruises heal. Let me read y'all this. Defendant Songz instructed his driver, one of the defendant Jane Doe, to forcibly remove the plaintiff from the vehicle. The driver, part of defendant Songz's security team, grabbed plaintiff and violently pulled her out of the vehicle, while defendant Songz pushed her and threw her onto the street. While one of defendant John Doe's was pulling, plaintiff was being pushed by defendant Songz out of the vehicle. Defendant Songz threatened and ridiculed the plaintiff and threw water in her face. Plaintiff suffered scrapes on her legs after hitting the ground, following being forcibly removed from the vehicle and thrown down to the ground. See the similarities? Let's keep rolling, shall we? So, in one such instance, after a party with Jay-Z, Mr. Combs beat Miss Ventura repeatedly in an escalade, including by kicking and hitting her. He forced her out of the vehicle on Fifth Avenue in New York City. Are y'all starting to see cross-examination? Let's keep rolling. She was eventually able to hail a cab to get to her apartment in Manhattan, where she cried in fear, realizing there was no one she could tell about what happened at the hands of this incredibly powerful man. She spent the sequential 3 days hiding in her apartment. In January 2009, after Mr. Combs learned that Miss Ventura spoke to another music manager at a party in Los Angeles, he became enraged. She had hoped speaking to this manager will allow her to further grow in her career, and Mr. Combs would be happy for her, but instead, he became extremely angry and pulled her out the club where the party was taking place. In the car leaving the club, Mr. Combs beat Miss Ventura, pushing her into a corner of the vehicle and stomping on her face. Mr. Combs' security staff, Roger Bonds, tried to stop the beating, but was unable to de-escalate the situation. When the car arrived at Mr. Combs' residence, Miss Ventura attempted to run away, but Mr. Combs followed her and proceeded to kick her again in the face. Miss Ventura was bleeding profusely and was ushered into Mr. Combs' home, where she began to throw up from the violent assault. Hello, Be More Shorty. Welcome in, Be More Shorty. By the way, I just want to say I love you, I value, I appreciate you, and thank you for being supportive to me on Mim's channel, because I said what I said and needed to be said. The energy I had for that panel, I have the same energy for this. And it boggled my mind that grown people would be upset with somebody trying to say the right thing, but they don't have enough of a vagina or balls between their legs to click the StreamYard link. If you got something to say, click the link. Otherwise, stay in the chat and shut the hell up. You ask for, and this is, and I'll say this and I'll move on. Mr. Rogers said, look for the helpers. To all the people that are wondering why people are not wanting to be the helpers, because maybe y'all are being the hinderers. Maybe y'all are being the hinderers and complaining and whining and moaning and itching and mitching and not being a solution for how the helpers are trying to help. Just because they don't do it in the way you want to do it doesn't mean that they don't have a good spot to come from to help. But when ish goes down, don't say nothing about where are the helpers because you were a hinderer. Understand that? I apologize to Mims. And those two ladies and all the ladies on that panel, they said a lot of ish. And if I have to be the only one to say something out loud, then I said what I said. And I will absolutely do it again. Because right is right and wrong is wrong. It is what it is. Let's roll on. Let's roll on. So, with that being said, and by the way, I love Mims. So for those of you who are in the bushes that are going to try to report this back to Mims, I apologize to Mims live on his channel. Everybody was saying, well, you should apologize to the two ladies. No, the two ladies were dumb. And that's being the nicest that I can be live. They were dumb for what they said. Because if somebody were to do what, if Darius were to do what he did to Kiki, to them, they would not be saying that ish. So I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it here, there, or anywhere, Braylon, I am. I don't want to hear it in your past, present, or afterlife. Under mother effing stood, let's roll the hell on. Now, I'm going to read this again. Miss Ventura attempted to run away, but Mr. Combs followed her and proceeded to again kick her in the face. Miss Ventura was bleeding profusely and was ushered into Mr. Combs' home, where she began to throw up from the violent assault. Upon recognizing the damage he has done, the physical evidence of his abuse, Mr. Combs panicked. Of course he did, because guess what? At that point, security was around, and she remembered who did it. So you wanted to have control. But the problem is, even though you feel like you put these circumstances for her to have control, you didn't recognize that there was a chance for her to break free. My mom said a quote from Maya Angelou that I try to live by every day. People may not remember what you say, they may not remember what you do, but they always remember how you made them feel. Let's keep rolling, shall we? Mr. Combs panicked and forced his staff to bring Miss Ventura to a hotel suite at the London Hotel in Los Angeles, where she was required to stay for a week. I'll bring up the London Hotel in Los Angeles because I believe that context is everything. So, y'all, this is the London West Hollywood Hotel, just to give y'all context. Y'all see all the pictures there. But I love giving context because guess what? If you don't know, you don't know. Let's roll on. Let's roll on here. Okay. Make sure I'm on the right tab here. Yep, okay, we're good. I just had to make sure I wasn't showing the deadline one to y'all because it's got a watermark. So I try to cover myself and cover us here as well. During this day, as her injuries from the beating healed, Ms. Ventura began to fully realize that Mr. Combs' tremendously loyal network not only knew about and witnessed his assault, but also that these witnesses were not willing to do anything to stop Mr. Combs' behavior. There were probably people that wanted to stop the behavior and probably want to call anonymously, but if he had that control on you, Cassie, imagine the control he had on them, where you talk, not only is your paycheck gone, but I can make your life gone in many different ways, mentally and otherwise. Let's keep rolling. Let's keep rolling. Who she recognized that she was powerless after reporting Mr. Combs to the authorities would not alter Mr. Combs' status or influence would merely give Mr. Combs another excuse to hurt her. While in the hotel, she asked to go home to her parents, but Mr. Combs would not let her leave. She lied to her mother when asked about a online gossip forum that had reported the assault. Allegedly, it was Lipstick Alley, by the way, from what I have seen on the social media streets. Mr. Combs proceeded to instruct his assistant to purchase excessive amounts of gifts for Miss Ventura, which were delivered to the hotel room where she remained trapped. Miss Ventura was terrified, isolated, and unable to see a pathway out of Mr. Combs' abusive hold on her life. She found herself becoming numb to the abuse she was experiencing and became beholden to Mr. Combs' demands. She began to blindly follow his instructions out of fear of again being on the receiving end of a vicious beating. By Mr. Combs' own admission, his relationship with Miss Ventura was like Bobby and Whitney, a clear acknowledgement of the unequal power dynamic and excessive domestic violence that permeated their relationship. From the outside looking in, Miss Ventura had heard others refer to a relationship with Mr. Combs as akin to Ike and Tina Turner. Her volatile and abusive partner, who also owned her label and therefore held her future success in his hand, had fully exerted control for every aspect of her life. Whew. Let's breathe for a minute before we roll on. Let's breathe for a minute. What the actual hell? Because what I am feeling here is that this control thing, Cassie is probably not the first person that he's had control over. I remember Tim Kaine, who ran for vice president with Hillary Clinton, said if you want to see what's important to somebody, look at their past behavior, look at the things that they care about in the past, see if there's a thread of them caring about all the way through. Control on this magnitude has usually existed in past actions and behavior. The magnitude of it probably elevates at the highest level when you feel like every level of control that you've had, okay, well, if I could do this, I could do that. If I could do that, I could do this. And it's like a video game until you get to the final level. It's like, oh, goody, I was able to get through all this manipulation. Now I am the controller of manipulation. Let's roll on. Mr. Collins forced Miss Ventura into sex trafficking. Within a few months of beginning a romantic relationship with 40-year-old Mr. Combs and the 22-year-old Miss Ventura, you heard that right. He was 40 years old. Cassie was 22. Felt beholden to his whims and demands. While in New York City, Mr. Combs told Miss Ventura that he wanted to engage in a fantasy called voyeurism. So voyeurism basically is when you get turned on by seeing people engage in sexual activity. In so many layman terms, Mr. Combs said that it would turn him on if Miss Ventura's it would turn him on if he saw Miss Ventura with another dick. I'm reading it from this page here. I can't show you it because it has a watermark, but this is the exact page here. The first time Mr. Combs' hired man brought the man into his home in Los Angeles, that man, Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura, wore a masquerade mask and ingested drugs. Mr. Combs directed Miss Ventura to perform sexual acts with this man while Mr. Combs watched them. He masturbated while he directed Miss Ventura and the man to do specific acts. The entire encounter lasted multiple days. Mr. Combs began to call the arrangement a freak off or a FO. Now, there have been rumors of Ciroc parties. Now, I don't know if the Ciroc parties were freak offs, but I can only imagine that freak offs had Ciroc vodka and probably De Leon tequila at these parties. Let's roll on, shall we? So he will repeatedly tell Miss Ventura at random moments that he wanted a FO or freak off. Miss Ventura was eventually expected to facilitate the location and the hiring of male sex workers. At certain points, Miss Ventura and Mr. Combs' relationship, he would insist on a FO weekly. You know, it's interesting because it seems like it's all black men that are being exposed. If I recall, Monyetta Shaw from the Real Housewives of Atlanta said that Nia wanted threesomes multiple times a day from Neo, freak offs from P Diddy weekly. No, it's a pattern. Let's keep rolling, shall we? So, Mr. Combs will repeatedly tell Miss Ventura that this practice was our thing and our secret. FOs will often take place in hotel suites, including at the 45 International Hotel in Columbus Circle, Laird Mitteridge, Beverly Hills, and London Hotel Los Angeles, the Intercontinental Century City, the Intercontinental Atlanta, the Intercontinental New York City, the One Hotel in New York, the Mandarin Oriental Hotel in New York. Oh, sorry, let me go back. The One Hotel in New York and in Miami, the Mandarin Oriental Hotel in New York and in Miami, the Fontainebleau in Miami, the Beverly Hills Hotel and Shutters on the beach in Los Angeles. So let me count how many hotel suites. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 hotels. One. There we go. 1, 3. 13 hotels that facilitated freak offs. Now, this is not at the beholdment of these hotels. These hotels were not responsible for the freak offs happening, but these are the hotels where they happened, okay, for contextual purposes. All right, let's keep rolling. On one occasion, around 2013, Mr. Combs had a freak off set up at the Intercontinental Hotel in New York City, after which he was charged with tens of thousands of dollars in damages by the hotel. Upon information and belief, Mr. Combs' chief of staff, Tony Fletcher, paid the invoice charged by the hotel. Ms. Ventura was eventually instructed to use websites and escort services to find male sex workers and to participate in the freak offs. Mr. Combs told Ms. Ventura to search for large black penises on the website. Sometimes Mr. Combs would pay to fly male sex workers to his location, including to multiple cities in the United States as well as abroad. He required Ms. Ventura and his staff to help make these arrangements. Ms. Combs' assistants would help set up freak offs by setting up the hotel suites with baby oil and Astroglide. I got a feeling that this is going to be going to trial. I've got a feeling that there's a lot of people that have receipts. A lot of people that have receipts. And also, too, did this come out per P. Diddy's personal account, or did he use his own business money and write those off? Hashtag question for everybody. Let's keep rolling on here as we are live on tour. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. I am breaking down the lawsuit that Cassie threw at P. Diddy just hashtag yesterday. Ms. Combs always supplied Ms. Ventura and the sex worker with copious amounts of drugs before and during the freak offs. Ms. Ventura was given ecstasy, cocaine, HGB, ketamine, marijuana, and alcohol in excessive amounts during freak offs, which allow her to disassociate during these horrific encounters. It became commonplace to get IV fluids in the days after a freak off to recover from the excessive substances pushed upon her. Miss Ventura was required to dress up in lingerie for a freak off, and Mr. Combs insisted that she wear white nail polish to contrast her nails with the skin of black men he hired to have sex with her. During the freak off, Mr. Combs would instruct Miss Ventura to pour excessive amounts of oil all over herself. Mr. Combs would then instruct Miss Ventura and the sex worker to speak to each other. Then he would tell Miss Ventura, then he would specifically tell Miss Ventura rather where to touch the sex workers. Mr. Combs would say things like, "Grab that big black dick," and "How does it feel?" as he directed her to perform for him. During the freak offs, in addition to directing Miss Ventura and masturbating, Mr. Combs would use his phone, laptop, and tablet to film Miss Ventura having sex with the hired sex worker. He treated the forced encounter as a personal art project and adjusted the candles where he used for lighting to frame the videos he took. I'm going to say that one more time. Mr. Combs would use his phone, laptop, and tablet to film Miss Ventura having sex with the hired sex worker. He treated the forced encounter as a personal art project, adjusting the candles he used for lighting to frame the videos he took. Hi, Tyler and Tamon's G Mom. Now, if we remember what happened with R. Kelly, he taped a 19-year-old young lady and he taped other women. R. Kelly taped girls, Pete Diddy also. Notice the ties. Let's keep rolling on, shall we? While Miss Ventura quickly deleted any photographs or video of sex acts if they were taken on her phone, Mr. Gomes repeatedly made it clear that he retained many videos of Miss Ventura during freak-offs. Even when she deleted the videos, Mr. Gomes would tell Miss Ventura that he was able to recover deleted videos from her devices. You know, that's really interesting that those videos you were able to recover, right? Because if you were able to recover those videos, that means you still have those videos, correct? That would be what we call evidence brought into trial, exhibits, good sir. Let's keep rolling on. Let's keep rolling on. So on one occasion, he sat next to her on a flight and made her watch a video that she thought she had deleted, reinforcing her ability to escape and reinforcing her inability to escape, rather, the immense power he had held over her. Mr. Combs would pay the male sex workers a few $1,000s in cash for their services. During some freak-offs, Mr. Combs would become extremely intoxicated and would hit Miss Ventura in front of the male sex workers. Miss Ventura was repulsed by Mr. Combs' demands, but between the physical beating and recognizing his incredible power and incredible temper, Miss Ventura became petrified of her partner and boss and felt that she could not say no. He would even present her with lavish gifts prior to or in the middle of freak-offs, seemingly acknowledging the ways in which these forced sexual accounts constituted work for Miss Ventura, and that he would need to be compensate her for this work. At one point, he had given her so many desired bracelets for freak-offs and immediately following his brutal beatings that she felt that she was shackled by his presence. Frequently, her anxiety before a freak-off would become so great that she would become physically ill, sometimes to the point of vomiting. While kneeling over the toilet, Mr. Combs would shame her into performing for him, eventually forcing her to get up and to proceed with the encounter. She knew firsthand that telling Mr. Combs that she did not want to engage in freak-offs was met with anger and violence. In addition, any suggestion Miss Ventura would refuse freak-offs or otherwise report Mr. Combs' abuse was met with ultimatums, but Mr. Combs would say that Miss Ventura could not go to the police because she had a lot to lose. Now, around August 2015, for example, in the middle of surprise birthday dinner for Miss Ventura's 29th birthday, Mr. Combs insisted that Miss Ventura leave the party and go to a hotel for a freak-off. When she expressed that she did not want to go, Mr. Combs had Miss Ventura cornered by his security staff in order to force her to leave with him. Y'all give me a moment. Now, what I am going to bring up here. Let me breathe. Let me breathe. Let me breathe. Let me breathe. Because what I'm about to show, what I'm about to show y'all here, I'm just trying to find the right part. Hang on, y'all. Hang on. No, that's not it. Okay, here it is. So I'm going to read this to y'all. Okay, this is from the cut. Here we go. Lord help. So, despite the mountain accusation, now this is Trey Songz. Now, despite the mountain accusations, Palmer's allegations, because for those of you who may not know, Keke Palmer went to a music video shoot where Trey Songz was, and Trey Songz wanted Keke Palmer in the music video. She did not want to be in the music video, so she held in the closet, and they went around and around trying to find Keke Palmer forcibly in a mental capacity to have Keke Palmer in the music video without her consent. So Selena Powell and her friend Eliza went on a podcast in 2020 and accused Songz of taking their phones and refusing them not to let them leave his house. Now you're probably like, Braylon, hey, Linda Gamble, welcome in. Hey, you guys are probably thinking, Braylon, what does this have to do with P. Diddy? Follow along, everybody. Follow along. Remember how I said that P. Diddy did not allow Miss Ventura to leave? Trey Songz did not allow Selena Powell and her friend Liza. He did not allow Selena Powell and Eliza to leave his house. And that, PD tried to take videos off of Cassie's phone, and Trey Songz got accused of taking their phones. You see the ties and how they're deepening? Powell alleged that Songz coerced her into some things and threw her phone off the balcony. And Eliza said that Songz urinated on her without consent. Powell and Eliza did not specify when the alleged incidents took place. Songz denied both women's accounts. So you're like, oh, okay, well, phones off of balconies. Hang on. Y'all gonna get what I mean in just a minute. Welcome in, everybody. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. We are live on tour talking about P. Diddy and the lawsuit. I'm bringing up something that I'm about to bring up here in just a minute with P. Diddy, but I want to bring this up because there was a lawsuit with Trey Songz that Trey Songz was at a party at P. Diddy's house. Let's see here. Here it is. I'm going to read it from right here. When the host and Adam, John Grandmason, and Adam is from No Jumper podcast, by the way, asked, how did he surprise P on you? Liza replied that after she and Songz engaged in the consensual sex act, he followed her into the bathroom and urinated on her without permission. And he literally peed on me like that. I was like, what the F on my eyelashes? And he's like, you're fine. Liza later said he already got mad at me for talking about it, but then every itch I talk to him says the same ish. And he's psycho. Like, he took my phone away. He took my phone and purse away for a whole day and then held them over the balcony. Itch, if you try to leave, I'll drop this ish. She added, he does the same thing to her. Now you're probably wondering, well, Braylon, Trey Songz just held a phone and a purse over a balcony. You're right. You're absolutely right. Now, the reason why I bring up the balcony thing is because of the thing that I'm about to tell y'all. Okay? Out of my rambling comes greatness. Just give me time, everybody. With that, now you got that Trey Songz balcony thing in your head, right? Type a 1 in the chat if you got that. Type a 1 in the chat if you got that balcony thing from Trey Songz in your head. Type a 1. I need to see at least one before I move on, because how I'm going to link this together. Anybody? Okay, I'm going to just imagine that y'all got the one. Okay, here we go. So with that being said, after this freak off, Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura went back to the hotel room that Miss Ventura was staying in, where some of Miss Ventura's friends were already hanging out. Mr. Combs was severely intoxicated, and at one point during the night picked up one of Miss Ventura's friends like a child and dangled the friend over the balcony of the 17th floor hotel suite. Thank you, Be More Sure and Tyler and Timon's G-Mom. So remember how I just said that Trey Songz allegedly held a phone and a purse over a balcony and says, if you mess with me, I'll drop this. P. Diddy grabbed one of Miss Ventura's friends and dangled the friend over the balcony of a 17th floor hotel suite. I'm going to let that breathe for just a minute. I'm going to let that breathe for just 1 minute. Once again, I'm going to let that breathe for just 1 minute. Now, you can believe what you want to believe. But how they often say, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. But that don't mean old dogs and young dogs can't learn the same tricks from each other. Y'all can let me know what y'all think in the chat before I move on, because I need to breathe for a minute. Okay, I just need to. Because that was a lot. That was quite a lot. Welcome in, everybody. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. We are live on tour talking about the lawsuit that Cassie made yesterday against P. Diddy, a 35-page lawsuit. I am on page 19 right now, if you are following along. And I will drop the link of this. That way you guys can see I'm reading exactly what is here. Miss Ventura and her friends were scared by Mr. Combs' erratic behavior, but Miss Ventura was heavily sedated because of the drugs she took to participate in the freak-off, and therefore was unable to respond to Mr. Combs' terrifying behavior. The freak-offs became work for Miss Ventura despite her protestations. Mr. Combs insisted on these intricately staged and forced sexual encounters between Miss Ventura and various male sex workers. Anytime she tried to create distance between her and Mr. Combs, he used his network to find her and convince her to return to his abuse. On multiple occasions, Mr. Combs sent his employees to lure Miss Ventura back. In 2011, during a rough patch in Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura's relationship, Miss Ventura had a brief relationship with musician Kid Cudi. When Mr. Combs returned from a trip, he demanded another freak-off from Miss Ventura. She acquiesced. During this freak-off, Mr. Combs found Miss Ventura's phone and found emails between her and Kid Cudi. Mr. Combs became enraged and proceeded to place a manual corkscrew between his fingers and lunged at Miss Ventura. Just to give y'all context. That's a manual corkscrew. So he took this manual corkscrew, allegedly, because we were not there, but he took a manual corkscrew, okay? leave that up there for a minute. Mr. Combs became enraged after finding emails between her and Kid Cudi, became enraged and took that manual corkscrew between his fingers and lunged at Miss Ventura. Let's keep rolling, shall we? Miss Ventura ran away to stay at Kid Cudi's home to escape Mr. Combs' wrath. Soon thereafter, one of Mr. Combs' staff members told Miss Ventura that he just needed to talk to Mr. Combs. Even though Mr. Combs was enraged, she felt like she could not escape Mr. Combs and his network of enforcers. Miss Ventura returned to Mr. Combs. He hit her several times and then kicked her in the back as she tried to run out the door. Say it one more time. Miss Ventura returned to Mr. Combs. He hit her several times and kicked her in the back as she tried to run out the door. She returned to her parents' home in Connecticut, where her mother took pictures of the bruises Mr. Combs had left from Miss Ventura's body. I am assuming that those pictures will be used in the court with this trial. In February 2012, during Paris Fashion Week, Mr. Combs told Miss Ventura that he was going to blow up Kid Cudi's car, and he wanted to ensure that Kid Cudi was home with his friends when it happened. Around that time, Kid Cudi's car exploded in his driveway. Miss Ventura was terrified. She began to fully comprehend what Mr. Combs was both willing and able to do to those he believed had slighted him, rather. In 2015, Miss Ventura spoke to a popular music manager at an after party at a hotel suite in Las Vegas. Mr. Combs saw her speaking to this manager, sternly told her to step into the bedroom adjoining the suite. In the bedroom, Mr. Combs beat Miss Ventura severely. She ran from corner to corner of the room, trying to avoid Mr. Combs beating and kicking. When she tried to lock herself in the bathroom, he pushed through and punched and kicked her while she curled up under the toilet. Her screams were drowned out by the loud music playing on the outside area or in the outside area of the hotel suite. When Mr. Combs' had security assistant saw Miss Ventura after the assault, they began to cry. Miss Ventura had 2 black eyes, a burst and bruised lip, and a huge welt on her forehead. Y'all still with me? Y'all still with me? Okay. Upon seeing the results of his vicious attack, Mr. Combs immediately took steps to conceal his wrongdoing. He forced Miss Ventura to stay at his home in Holmby Hills along with one of his sons. While there, Mr. Combs FaceTime Miss Ventura stated, "You gotta go and put more makeup on. My son can't see you like that." The fact that you would care that she should put makeup on because you don't want her son to see her like that, when you should get about her because you should not have wanted to see her like that, speak volumes to me. And you were dating Lori Harvey? They dated. But before that though, now allegedly that there was rumors of Lori dating him, but allegedly it's not true. But I thought that was the case, but basically just too much. I'm reading back into the lawsuit about she did put her makeup on per Mr. Combs' demand. Miss Ventura she felt that she had no other choice but to obey her abuser, even though security guards, assistants, and friends saw the situation she was in. No one dared to help her speak up for her on her behalf. Therefore, she had no choice but to remain subservient. Later in 2015, while shooting a movie in Cape Town, South Africa, Miss Ventura began a flirtatious relationship with an actor. She spent New Year's Eve with this actor, but Mr. Combs soon found out. Mr. Combs called the actor and threatened him. The actor proceeded to call Miss Ventura to tell her, "You really need to call Mr. Combs." In or around March 2016, during a freak off at the Intercontinental Hotel in Century City, Los Angeles, Mr. Combs became extremely intoxicated and punched Miss Ventura in the face, giving her a black eye. As he fell asleep, Miss Ventura tried to leave the hotel room, but as she exited, Mr. Combs awoke, began screaming at Miss Ventura. He followed her into the hallway of the hotel while yelling at her. He grabbed at her, took glass vases in the hallway, and threw them at her, causing glass to crash around them as she ran to the elevator to escape. Now y'all remember Trey Songz threw that young lady in this lawsuit, pushed her on the ground, threw water in her face. Trey Songz held a phone and a purse over a balcony and threatened to drop it. Darius came in Keke Palmer's bedroom door shortly after 11 a.m. and Keke Palmer tried to put a couch in between them and Darius pushed Keke on the couch. And during one time, he slammed Keke Palmer on the back of the steps. And then there was a tug of war between Darius and Keke's baby, Leo. Anybody noticing the ties and how they're deepening? Let's roll on. I'm going to read that one more time. Yes, after he fell asleep, Miss Ventura tried to leave the hotel room, but as she exited, Mr. Combs awoke, screaming, and began screaming at Miss Ventura. He followed her into the hallway of the hotel while yelling at her. He grabbed her, then took glass vases in the hallway, threw them at her, causing glass to crash around them as she ran to the elevator to escape. I'm going to read that one more time for the one more time because it needs to be said. He grabbed her, then took glass vases in the hallway, then threw them at her, causing glass to crash around them as she ran to the elevator to escape. She managed to get into the elevator. When she got to the lobby, she quickly took a cab to her apartment. Upon realizing that her runaway would cause Mr. Combs to even be more angry with her and completely stuck in his vicious cycle of abuse, Miss Ventura returned to the hotel with the intention of apologizing, running away from her abuser. When she returned, hotel security staff urged her to get back into the cab and go to her apartment, suggesting they had seen the security footage showing Mr. Combs beating Miss Ventura and throwing glass in the hallway. Upon information and belief, Mr. Combs paid Intercontinental Century City $50,000 for the hallway security footage from that evening. You know, I got a feeling because Intercontinental is a property under IHG Hotels and Resorts, which is International Hotels Group, which is a British multinational hospitality company headquartered in Windsor, England. They are also known for Holiday Inn, Holiday Inn Express, Crown Plaza, Hotel Indigo, Intercontinental, Staybridge Suites, Candlewood Suites, and IHG One Rewards. Even though you paid for that $50,000, I got a feeling that because that was mentioned in this suit, I imagine that footage will also be in the case, good sir, and that you will have to release that footage to the courts, sir. Let's keep rolling. Shall we? Once again, when she returned, hotel security staff urged her to get back into a cab and go to her apartment, suggesting that they had seen the security footage of Mr. Combs beating Miss Ventura, throwing glass at her in the hotel hallway. Upon information and belief, Mr. Combs paid the Intercontinental Century City $50,000 for the hallway security footage from that evening. Once again, upon information and belief, Mr. Combs paid the Intercontinental Century City $50,000 for the hallway security footage from that evening. After this, Miss Ventura left her home in Cornstalk and went to hide away at a friend's home in Florida. James Crew, president of Bad Boy Mansion, tracked Miss Ventura down and told her that her single would not be released if she did not answer Mr. Combs' phone calls. I don't think she would give a damn if it was a single or album or whatever the uck. Sorry, okay? She would rather have herself and her peace than be in pieces. And that's to James Cruz, the president of Bad Boy Management. A woman who worked at Sony Music reached out to her with a similar ultimatum concerning her record. Incredibly, Mr. Combs even convinced one of his attorneys to call Ms. Ventura at this time. This lawyer told Ms. Ventura, it's in your best interest to call Mr. Combs back. Each time Ms. Ventura tried to run away, Mr. Combs and his powerful network would force her back to him. Mr. Combs' tight hold over her life has irreparably damaged her friendships. Around 2018, when Miss Ventura was with her friend Carrie Morgan in her house, Mr. Combs used his key to Miss Ventura's house and came in unannounced. He and Miss Morgan had an altercation in which Mr. Combs threw a hanger at Miss Morgan. Upon the information and belief, the incident resulted in a settlement between Mr. Combs and Miss Morgan. Miss Ventura ended up paying Miss Morgan additional funds in an attempt to resolve the dispute between her and her close friend, her abusive and controlling boyfriend. The relationship between Miss Ventura and Miss Morgan has been strained since this time. And I hope that relationship is being healed right now. That it was not the fact that Cassie did not want to do anything, it was the circumstances that she was in. Let's keep rolling. Seeing the extreme measures Mr. Combs took to keep a tight hold on Ms. Ventura and isolate her from her support network, and having experienced the repercussions of rejecting his demands, Ms. Ventura felt saying no to Mr. Combs would cost her something: her family, her friends, her career, even her life. Now, I've been very cautious with what I read from this because we're all grown here. But this next part is very heavy. So, and this is the title of this section: Mr. Combs rapes Miss Ventura. By 2017 and 2018, Miss Ventura became desperate to leave Mr. Combs and his abuse of her. She recognized that if she stayed with him, she would never be able to have a successful career or be physically and mentally safe. Therefore, she became determined to completely break away from Mr. Combs and his cycle of abuse and made concerted efforts to avoid him. In September 2018, she joined Mr. Combs for a dinner at an Italian restaurant in Malibu, California, where she believed would be a discussion about concluding their relationship for good. After dinner, Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura returned to Miss Ventura's home, which was paid for by Mr. Combs. He forced himself into her apartment and tried to kiss Miss Ventura. She told him to stop and attempted to push him away. Mr. Combs then forcibly pulled off Miss Ventura's clothing, unbuckled his belt, and then proceeded to rape Miss Ventura while repeatedly said no and tried to push him away. I'm going to read that section 2 more times, and I know that is triggering, but it needs to be repeated so that way everyone knows the severity, the seriousness, and the gravity of this. Mr. Combs forced himself into her apartment and tried to kiss Miss Ventura. She told him to stop and attempted to push him away. Mr. Combs then forcibly pulled off Miss Ventura's clothing, unbuckled his belt, and then proceeded to rape Miss Ventura while she repeatedly said no and tried to push him away. Mr. Combs forced himself into her apartment and tried to kiss Miss Ventura. She told him to stop and attempted to push him away. Mr. Combs then forcibly pulled off Miss Ventura's clothing, unbuckled his belt, and he proceeded to rape Miss Ventura while she repeatedly said no and tried to push him away. Soon thereafter, Miss Ventura took steps to completely separate herself from her longtime abuser by including leaving the home that he had paid for and returning the car he had purchased for her. Despite moving away, Miss Ventura's address was posted online in early 2019, leaving fears to her safety. Miss Ventura was under immense duress during the months after Mr. Combs raped her, took all steps possible to entirely remove herself from her abuser's ambit, including by entering into contracts to end her record deal with Bad Boy Entertainment. Ms. Combs' sexual and physical abuse of Miss Ventura has caused her lifelong harm. As a result of the immense trauma Miss Ventura endured for over a decade with Mr. Combs, she has suffered and continues to suffer from immense emotional distress. Following her escape from the cycle of abuse and sex trafficking she endured, she struggled with the mental manifestations of her trauma. The birth of her two children, however, allowed her a new lease on life and gave her purpose. She credits her children with saving her from the trauma that had consumed over a decade of her life, except for the months where she was pregnant with her children. Miss Ventura struggled with her addictions to drugs and alcohol, addictions that were established and fueled by Mr. Combs. She turned to substances to drown out the memories of her abuse without being intoxicated. She suffered the horrible nightmares of the forced sexual acts that Mr. Combs demanded she participate in during the regularly scheduled freak-offs and of the physical beatings that she had endured. Throughout her relationship, she had difficulty eating or sleeping, and her relationships with her family suffered. During this time, she had frequently had thoughts of ending her own life. To rebuild her life and career, Miss Ventura needs to completely reinvent herself. She checked into an inpatient treatment at a rehabilitation center, rather, where she first confronted the extent of the trauma she lives with. She has required intense therapy and other medical care to recover from Mr. Combs' abuse, and she will forever live with the physical and psychological repercussions over the decade of violence, fear, and exploitation she endured. Although Miss Ventura was able to speak up against the years of abuse she endured at the hands of Mr. Combs, she has since been able to rebuild her life and confront her trauma thanks to the passage of New York's Adult Survivors Act and California's Sexual Abuse Accountability Cover App. She is now ready to confront her abuser and to hold him and to and those who enabled his abuse accountable for their actions. Plaintiff repeats and re-alleges each and every allegation of the preceding paragraphs as it is fully set forth within. Specifically, defendant Sean Combs perpetrated sex trafficking of Ms. Ventura by requiring her to engage in forced sex acts in multiple jurisdictions, and all defendants benefited from Mr. Combs' venture by holding Ms. Ventura or are assigned to defendant Bad Boy Records and otherwise employed by other defendant Dell corporations captive to Mr. Combs' demands and desires at all relevant times. Defendants participate in and facilitate the harbor and transportation of plaintiff for purposes of sex induced by force, fraud, and coercion. The defendant corporations have financially otherwise benefit as a result of these actions and omissions by keeping Mr. Combs, the volatile and explosive owner of defendant's corporation, satisfied. They benefit from facilitating his behavior to the extent it was um, to keep the Mernical music mogul happy, kept Miss Ventura obedient to Mr. Combs and the corporation's interests. Defendant Combs and defendant Bad Boy Records and Bad Boy Entertainment and Doe Corps formed a venture defined by 1 8 USC 1591, given that they constituted a group of two or more individuals and associate in fact whether or not an illegal entity. As a direct and proximate result of defendant's unlawful conduct, as alleged here the above, plaintiff has suffered physical injury, severe emotional distress, anxiety, humiliation, embarrassment, post-traumatic stress disorder, economic harm, other consequential damages. And then violation of New York services for victims of sex trafficking. Plaintiff is a victim of sex trafficking within meaning of New York penal law 230.34, as they're entitled to bring forth a civil action under NY SOC Serve 4483 BB. Specifically, defendant Sean Combs perpetrated sex trafficking by requiring Ms. Ventura to engage in forced sexual acts in the state of New York, and all defendants benefit from Mr. Combs' venture by holding Ms. Ventura and are assigned for Bad Boy Records. Um, Otherwise employed by defendant John Doe. That's basically the same thing that I said. And then, of course, the same thing under the California Code. I'm trying to make sure I read everything here. And that's basically the rest of it is all legal. And it says here, wherefore plaintiff prays judgment will be entered in the favors of the defendants, and each of them follows. A monetary judgment represent compensatory damages, including consequential damages, lost wages, earning all sums of money together with interest on these amounts according to proof. Number two, a money judgment for mental pain and anguish and severe emotional distress according to proof. Three, for punitive and exemplary damages according to proof. Four, for attorney's fees and costs. Five, for prejudgment and post-judgment interest. And six, for other further relief as the court may deem just and appear. Dated November 16th, 2023, yesterday. Signed by Wigdor LLP. Now, hey, Revelation 2023, glad to have you here. Now, no problem. I'm surprised we got through that in an hour and 30 minutes, so proud on me, because let me tell you something. That Bravo breakdown was 2 hours. Now, the next thing I'm going to read to y'all is this. Okay. Let me highlight this. Let me see if I can zoom in on this. Okay. Now, this story comes to us from deadline.com. Okay. So I'm going to show y'all. So this story here comes to us from deadline.com, okay? I'm going to just let y'all read that before I read it. Y'all reading it? Now I'm going to read it. Mr. Combs offered Ms. Ventura 8 figures to silence her and prevent the filing of this lawsuit, Doug Wigdor told Deadline on Thursday after the singer and model filed suit in federal court claiming Mr. Combs subjected her to abuse, violence, and sex trafficking over the years. She rejected his efforts and decided to give a voice to all women who suffer in silence. Ms. Ventura should be applauded for her bravery. 2 more times, Mr. Combs offered Ms. Ventura 8 figures to silence her and prevent the filing of this lawsuit, Doug Wigdor told Deadline on Thursday. One more time for the one more time. Mr. Combs offered Ms. Ventura 8 figures to silence her and prevent the filing of this lawsuit, Doug Wigdor told Deadline on Thursday after the single model filed a suit in federal court claiming Combs subjected her to abuse, violence, and sex trafficking over the years. She rejected his efforts and decided to give a voice to all women who suffer in silence. Ms. Ventura should be applauded for her bravery. Diddy? You do realize that this is going to be a huge piece of court, right? You do realize that. Okay. Just in case y'all did not know. Let me keep reading. The statement today comes after Combs' attorney, Bryn Brathman, responded to the filing by saying that his client vehemently denies these offensive and outrageous allegations. So after Combs' attorney, Ben Brathman, responded to this filing of that this is all an issue, Doug Wigdor said that Diddy offered Cassie 8 figures to not file this. The former Harvey Weinstein lawyer added, for the past 6 months, I'm just going to highlight it. There we go. For the former Harvey Weinstein lawyer added, for the past 6 months, Mr. Combs has suggested Ms. Ventura persistent demand of $30 million. For the former Harvey Weinstein lawyer added, for the past 6 months, Mr. Combs has suggested subjected to Miss Ventura's persistent demand of 30 million under the threat of writing a damaging book about their relationship, which was unequivocally rejected as blatant blackmail. Despite withdrawing her initial threat, Miss Ventura has now resorted to filing a lawsuit ridiculed with baseless, outrageous lies, aiming to tarnish Mr. Combs' reputation, seeking a payday. Really, really. So I'm confused how Miss Ventura has resorted to filing a lawsuit riddled with baseless, outrageous lies aiming to tarnish Mr. Combs' reputation, seeking a payday, after this statement here to that dumb lawyer that, well, let's just say that maybe the brain cells can't form a brain to comprehend facts. So you say, Ben Brathman, that Ms. Ventura resorted to filing a lawsuit riddled with baseless, outrageous lies when Doug Wigdor said that Mr. Combs offered Ms. Ventura's 8 figures to silence her to prevent the filing of this lawsuit. Something the Kool-Aid ain't sweet, sir. Hmm. 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 So, for those of you who may be wondering where I got this from, I'm going to drop the link in the chat. All understood, be more shorty, and much love to you, and thank you again for defending me with memes, and love you very much for coming over here. I appreciate you, and prayers up to your father as well. I'm going to drop the link for y'all if y'all want to come on up, because I know y'all got a lot to say, and I got a lot to hear. I don't know why I typed that in twice. Sorry, huh? All right, y'all. The link is pinned. I know y'all got a lot to say. I got a lot to hear. I want to hear from you. Excuse me. Good Lord. Sorry. I ate some pizza earlier. I want to hear from y'all and what y'all guys say on this, because I know y'all got a lot to say. I got a lot to hear from all of you. And I want to hear from all of you. I really do. Because this lawsuit, man. I believe every word of it. You cannot make up something that detailed. You just can't. Um, I definitely want to hear from y'all. Definitely want to hear from y'all. As y'all get ready to come on up, I'm gonna check on something real quick. Please come on up. I would love to hear from you. Just click the StreamYard link; it will ping, and you'll be right up here with me. I'll be right back. Still right here. Love all of you. We are live on tour. Like, comment, share, subscribe. We'll be on the highways and byways of the possibilities of what can be. There we go. Sorry. We've been on the highways and byways of the possibilities of what can be for 1 hour, 38 minutes, and 37 seconds. Glad to have all of you here. Hey, I am back, y'all. So what are y'all thinking? What's your thoughts on this story? Y'all know when we go on tour with a topic, we go anywhere and everywhere. But what are y'all thinking about this particular story here? I want to hear from all of you, because the block is hot with this story, and oh Lord. That's odd. Sorry, I was just checking something. Just checking something. Interesting. Okay. Woo! Lord, Lord, Lord. This was a lot. This was quite a lot. What are y'all thinking in the live chat? What are you thinking about this? I mean, do you believe Cassie? Do you not believe Cassie? I'm willing to hear all sides. Just come correct y'all because this story is real. And like I said, when we cover a story like this, not everyone is going to agree, but also to what needs to be said needs to be said. So, oh man, this was a lot. This was quite a lot. I just, oh Lord. 4 people in the building. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thank you all for being here, and glad to have you all here. Like I said, this was a lot. This was quite a lot for sure. I'm still here. Y'all give me a moment. I'm still here, y'all. I'm still here. Lord Jesus. God, I hope that changes soon. Oh, Lord. It's just not one thing, it's another in life, y'all. It really is. Well, y'all, looks like that's the end of our show because I'm not seeing anybody coming up on StreamYard. I'll put a poll in the chat if anybody wants to come up. Otherwise, we'll probably close out the show. All right, I'll give y'all that there. See if y'all want to come on up or not there. We'll see. Because this there's no way that you cannot believe that. Like that's just, and like I said, when I try to cover these stories, I try to have care, sense, and tact for what has happened, because at the end of the day, wrong is wrong, and that should not be happening at all. I mean, it's just the way the freak offs have happened, and the fact that he kicked her in the back as she was leaving the door and trying to blow up somebody's car, and tracking down somebody and having people say, if you don't call, your career's not happening. Like, it is disgusting. It is shameful, and it's out of line. It is completely out of line. And I know the only way we are going to evolve any of this is by doing lives like this and calling out behavior that is wrong. Um, like I said, I am trying my very best to be able to provide a space where people can feel like they have a place to fall. And I think the reason why people will never be able to feel like they can fall is because there are places of uncomfortability. And we have to do much better. And not just much better, we have to do the right thing. Of if we see something, we have to do something. And don't think about if somebody's going to say, oh my God, you're trying to do this or trying to do that. Guess what? It's better to stand up and be the only one standing up while everyone else is sitting down. Um, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, the more we don't defend what is wrong, the less people we will have. So I just wanted to say that. But yeah, it looks like that is our show, because it looks like nobody really wants to come up. So I will go ahead and read the Daily Motivator here, and we will wrap up tonight's show. And don't forget, tomorrow night at 9, 8 Central will be Love and Marriage Huntsville at 9, 8 Central. Like I said, if y'all do want to come up real quick before I read the Daily Motivator, you're more than welcome to. We're just chilling out at this point of the show. Basically broke down the whole thing in an hour and 30 minutes. And so, yeah. So glad to have all of you here. I'm going to read the Daily Motivator for y'all real quick here. Let's see here. Here we go. The major block to compassion is the judgment in our minds. Judgment is the primary tool of separation. Diane Burke. It's time for the Daily Motivator for Friday, November 17th, 2023. Time to begin. You know you can be better. You know you can give more. Challenge yourself to do so. It's easy to complain, to blame, to dream up excuses, to feel sorry for yourself, but none of that is going to achieve anything. What makes a difference is your purposeful, focused, persistent effort. So go ahead and do what you know you can do. The path forward is complicated, uncomfortable, inconvenient, frustrating. Yet it's also available and attainable, and now it's the time to proceed with it. The world will continually try to entice you with promises of something for nothing. But as you've experienced again and again, such promises never pan out. What does get results, what does bring improvement is your effort. And in case you've lost sight of what you already know, now is the best time to begin. Always love these daily motivators, because after we've covered the mess of the impossible and covered the rise of the possible, we need a good cleanser, a mental cleanser. And so, time to begin. You have to be able to begin in order for anything to come back to you. They said faith without hard works is dead. That means you have all the faith in the world, even the faith the size of a mustard seed. But if you don't put energy into what you do, you will never get to your destination. That's the first thing. Number two, What makes a difference is your purposeful focus and persistent effort. Even though you may evolve in what you do and how you do, your intentionality should always have the same energy, because what you focus on with your intentions will determine how you move. And finally, your effort determines your blessings. Your effort determines your blessings, and that you don't have to do the most in order to receive good. You just have to give your best to receive good. With that, it is time for the best outro on YouTube. I hope you guys have enjoyed tonight's show. Very heavy show for a Friday night, but it needed to be talked about. Know what you do and do what you know. Never say you want more special, because you will always want a blessing. And trust, you may not be where you want to be, but by the end of it, you'll be where you need to be. Do what you've been chosen to do. Why it's one thing and call yourself is another thing. Be chosen. One love, much love, all love. I have spent time with you. You have spent time with me. And hopefully, by spending time together, we'll rise up to be great together. And always remember, where you're doing radio, television, YouTube, living your best life, or saying what needs to be said. If people get upset by it, guess what? That reflects the character that they don't have and the character that you do have to do the right thing. Make sure the replay is not just worth for you to watch it, not just worth for you to listen to it, but for you to want to experience it again. I love you. I value you. I embrace you. Whatever obstacles you have overcome, whatever successes you have achieved on this very day, I am extremely proud of you. But if no one else is going to be proud of you, be proud of your damn self. And remember, in order to receive love, you have to give it. Say that again. In order to receive love, you have to give it. I will see y'all tomorrow at 3:05 p.m. for the Ready to Love Make a Move show with a Queen T with Gigi, Non Talk with Salam, my main man Q. And then I'll see you guys at 9/8 Central for the Love and Marriage Huntsville after show. I know it'll be Thanksgiving, I think, coming next week. So I may do a Thanksgiving show. Stay tuned to the community tab to see if I will be doing something. But otherwise, if I don't see y'all, have a good Thanksgiving. Y'all know we will be back on tour very soon. But one love, much love, all love. Enjoy these fireworks for the day that has been, the day that is to come, and the blessings are on the way. One love, much love, all love. Good night, everybody.